What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of Debate with Bake, brought to you by Most Serious Entertainment. Of course, in the heart of Most City, Texas. Of course, in the heart of Houston, Texas. I'm your host with the most, Mr. Charles Baker, a.k.a. C. Bake. And that's my co-host, my second in command, my boy, my brother from another mother, Gerard Cole, a.k.a. Cole, a.k.a. Rude Boy. And we also got, once again, bringing some more good energy, JT the Golden Child with us.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, fellas?
Man, I love it. I love it. Happy to be back on the podcast.
That's right. What's up, Cole?
We good over here, man. Just getting over this rain, but we good over here, man. How you been?
That's right, man. That's right, man. We got a lot to talk about in the sports world, man. Shout out to Cole and his Knicks last night. Looking pretty good. Caught a little bit of glimpse of the game. Y'all look pretty good.
Sir.
You know, Rockets looked pretty good the other night against the Spurs. Preseason action. We're not going to get too excited, but we will jump into the NBA on later episodes, especially for the opening week, which will be in a couple of weeks. So we're not going to get too excited about the preseason, but we do have a plenty of topics to talk to you all today. First of all, let's get into the boxing world, where we talk about the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford fight. Just in case you don't know, it has been called off for November 19th, rather. We've heard different reports, but of course it's not going to happen on November the 19th, which is very disappointing.
What's the real reason?
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
We got a clip that we're going to play just about in a minute, but for those who don't know, yes, the fight is off for November the 19th. There's still talks between the Crawford and Spence camp. Both fighters are saying that they still want the fight. There's some promotional issues going on between PBC and, of course, Terrence Crawford, who is an independent agent. He is representing himself. But both fighters are expressing interest in still having the fight. There's some issues, and we'll get to that in a minute. But as of now, the fight is off for November the 19th. There have been reports saying that it could possibly be in January and February. There's also been reports that it could be in December, but those of us know who are real boxing fans that December is pretty much reserved for Tank and Christmas. So without further ado, we're going to play this clip. And this clip is from Mike Coppinger, who's a reporter from ESPN. He's one of the reporters that broke the news to us that we possibly had a fight about a couple of weeks ago. And he was the one that brought it to us that both fighters had agreed to fight. But this next clip we're going to show is Mike Coppinger having a conversation with Max Kellerman. Of course, Max Kellerman is known for HBO boxing, but he is now on ESPN. And he pretty much represents ESPN as far as boxing. He's kind of like their boxing representative. So we're going to play this clip, and then we'll get into why this fight is not happening, and we'll break down what both reporters are saying. So go ahead, JT, and play that clip for us.
2 weeks ago, you reported that Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence was close to being made, but we still don't have a deal. What's the latest?
Max, we're getting further away than ever before. It was targeted for November 19th. I am told that if it does happen now, it's going to get pushed into either December or January. And the issue, Max, I am told, is that there are disagreement in the contract over event expenses and basically transparency related to those expenses. Terrence Crawford agreed to take the short end of the split and work off of no guarantee. And he wants to be able to just, have some transparency there related to it, since he's going to be working off of the net revenue. And so far, they have been unable to clear this up. It feels like Al Heyman is holding up the deal right now. He advises Spence. Spence wants it. Crawford wants it. And for Crawford to agree to work off of just a purse split shows you how badly he wants this, in my opinion.
Hold on a second. You mean to tell me, because anyone who follows the way, Hollywood or anything, there's no such thing as the net. It's all the growth. I mean, certainly if you don't have oversight of the books, right, approving expenses, or certainly at least knowing where all the money's going, no one would ever agree to a net. The fact that Crawford's you work off the gross, but if you're working off the net, then certainly if what you're reporting is accurate, then Crawford would be out of his mind not to insist on that. And you're telling me that that's what's holding it up, that Al Heyman who's advising Errol Spence is not giving Terrence Crawford oversight over expenses or giving him transparency to the books, of the books. He's not letting him take a look at the books. And that's why Crawford won't sign, because that sounds to me, Mike, like a duck. That sounds like Al Heyman doesn't think that his guy is going to win and is ducking Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, this is a mess right now, Max. I mean, they're trying to work through it. They thought they had a deal, and they need transparency over the expenses because Crawford, that's how much Crawford's going to make, right? This is a massive fight, as you've said over and over. Crawford wants to make sure he's being taken care of course. And it's different, right? Errol Spence is on the Al Heyman side. He's with PBC. He's a big star in his own right. Crawford's looking for some transparency in good faith. And so far, they have not been able to come to terms on that.
And incidentally, I would welcome Al Heyman on this program to tell his side of the story. And that's an open invitation. But it sounds like a duck to me. If it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck.
And we definitely want to get everybody's insight, definitely on this podcast about that. But what was just said between Max Kellerman and Michael Coppinger, is that there's an issue between Al Heyman, who represents PBC, who represents Errol Spence in this fight, versus Terrence Crawford. Now, Terrence Crawford currently is a free agent, and he broke away from Bob Arum, who was at Top Rank, and Terrence didn't like what was going on in terms of his contract, and so he's now an independent agent. So basically what the issue is that Crawford, and I'm getting this from multiple reports, Crawford agreed, just like we talked about on this podcast earlier, Crawford agreed to be what we talked about, the B side of this fight, meaning that he took the smaller end of the purse. And what I'm hearing is that he agreed to a 65-35 purse, meaning that Earl, being represented by PBC, being represented by Al Heyman, will take the bigger half of the purse, the 65. He would get 65% and Crawford would get 35%. That's one report I heard.
Now, let me ask you, I don't mean to cut you off. Because I can honestly say I'm not in tune with how it works. Right. So Earl gets why does he get to have the more negotiating, more bidding power? Well, if they both have close to the same record, so to speak, same following, so to speak.
Well, that's a good question. As I said, we go back to our conversation with me, you, and Cole had a couple of weeks ago when I asked you about the A side, meaning that the A side versus the B side. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by the A side and the B side, and you answered, I think me and you answered this, we answered the same answer, and Cole went with Crawford. But A side, we were saying who would be the guy that gets to dictate most of the terms. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And me and you agreed, and we can go back to that episode, or people can look at that episode. Right. I can't remember what episode it was, but we basically said that because they're fighting at the welterweight division, mm-hmm. which is 147 pounds, and Earl Spence has most of the belts in that division, okay. We decided that he would be the A side, meaning he would dictate, he would get the final word as far as glove size. He would, if they had a purse, he would get a bigger. Okay. At least for the first fight, he would get a bigger half of the purse.
And that's because of in his weight class.
Right. His resume. Right. Now, that's one of the determining factors. It could be resume. I think it's resume because Earl holds 3 belts in that division. Okay. And Crawford only holds 1. Now, there could be some other things. Some people think because Earl is the bigger pay-per-view fighter, mm-hmm. meaning that he's had more success, more numbers. And he's with PBC, which PBC is represented by Al Heyman, which is also with Floyd.
So is it okay? So it's not because of who's promoting the fight.
It could be. It could be. That's what I'm saying. It could be PBC, and because and that's another thing we're going to talk about here with this is that because Crawford is independent, mm-hmm. It seems like to certain people because he's independent, he's being left out of what's going on. Now, what he's asking for, what the problem is coming down to, according to what Max and Coppinger was saying, was Crawford agreed to take the smaller part of the purse. And as far as the events, mm-hmm. things that after everybody gets paid, hotel rooms and all that, he would get
the back
end of that.
Okay.
The problem is what they're saying in that interview, and I could be wrong, but what they're saying is that Crawford is asking them PBC, Al, to show him how many hotel rooms is it, how many. They're not revealing the contract details, so he doesn't know
the details.
Right, he doesn't know what he's getting. He doesn't
Okay.
know, and then what I mean by what he's getting, not necessarily the money, but how is the money being
everything
figured out?
He wants to know the
Right,
details of
right.
how's the splits going.
Right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you know, basically, he wants to know, you know,
Okay.
what's going on, what not necessarily
As he should.
right.
As he should.
Right. He's not going to know the monetary value right now, but at least he'll know if these rooms got comped, if this stuff happened, I'm going to get this based on this event. And so that's the issue, which is weird to me. They're not revealing as to what
that's
he's
some
gonna,
Trump shit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's weird to me.
Okay. I just wanted to get that
Right.
understanding.
Now, some people, and Cole, I'm gonna get your opinion on this. Some people say, and I wonder this for Crawford, because we all know in the past that Crawford has been with Top Rank, which is Bob Aaron. Top Rank is one of the top promotional companies in the business. Some people are saying because he's not with Top Rank, that they're playing this negotiation game with him, meaning that he has no representation.
So Al's not the top.
Al is the top. Al is the one who's kind of responsible
but
for
the
this
guy that you just named, I heard that name.
So Bob Arum is Top Rank. Remember when we talk about Shakur, Better Beef, and Devin fights a couple fights over there. Bob Arum he represents Top Rank.
Got you.
And basically, before all this happened, Terrence was in a contract situation with them, which he wasn't happy. He fought with Top Rank for a while, and he ended up suing Bob to get out of that contract. He wasn't happy with that.
See, isn't that what Devin Haney and his camp was going through for a minute with Top Rank?
Nah, not really, because I think what Top Rank was doing was, I think they were trying to get them to sign like a longer contract,
right.
And they end up just getting a multi-fight contract.
Okay, so there's a difference. Just like in the record label, there's a difference. You can get a year contract, or you can get a 4 to 5 contract.
I'll give you an example in the record label down here in Houston. Down here in Houston, whereas Trader Truth signed just a little while for Rap-A-Lot.
Yeah, that one album to deal.
Right, whereas Scarface was with Rap-A-Lot for a longer time. I think it ended up, some people like Devin, his dad, credit to them, I think they just got a multi-fight deal with Top Rank. So Terrence was pretty much in a longer contract with Top Rank. And something happened where I think he was either able to get it out, or he get out of the contract, or he's currently still in fights with them. So he's independent now.
And that's Terrence. Now, let me ask you. Now, I don't mean to keep sidebar, but I just have to get an understanding, because I know how detailed you are with this next bit of information. Okay, so with Devin Haney, he's independent, but he signed some type of deal with Top Rank to go and get this last belt that he got.
Again, that's why I say he's in a multi-fight deal.
So was that the only fight, or does he have like 2 more?
Now that I'm not sure with. I know he's not in a longer contract with them. I know he's in a multi-fight deal with them.
And see, that I don't mean to bring up my boy, the Tank, but I have, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks as though Top Rank and PBC were holding off that fight.
For who?
Devin, not holding off that fight, but kind of holding back.
It could be.
It could be between Tank.
It could be, but we don't have no direct evidence about it. Speculations about that.
You're right. But Al Heyman made a comment, and if I would have known we were doing it like this, Al Heyman made a comment to what's the guy, man, that represents Floyd, the bald-headed guy?
Ellaby.
Leonard Ellaby. He made a comment to Ellaby to whereas the future of boxing would be great if PBC and Top Rank could get along with the splits of the fights. And when he do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so when he said that, they immediately put Tank in that same category as looking for a representation other than Floyd that would get him the deals to be able to fight those top ranked fighters, because there's nobody in his weight class. I think you pointed that out, to like he was the only guy in that weight class, and it's hard for PBC to promote a fight with Top Rank because of the legitimacy with Top Rank able to put on independent fighters. PBC don't want to put on any independent fighters. Which is why Devin Haney didn't want to go with PBC.
Right.
So but that could be here nor there.
It could be, but I'm of the mindset of this, and you brought that up in one of the podcasts, and you bring up a good point. There is business things that are behind everything. But the problem I have, and my belief is this. As fighters can put more pressure on their promoters. May not get the fight.
Are they putting the pressure on the promoters or PBC and Top Rank? Or are you calling them promoters as well?
I'm calling them promoters as well, companies. So
okay,
they do.
That's why I have a problem with Ellaby, because Ellaby seems to not ever listen to the fighters, to the point where he argues with the fighters, clear as day on platforms, to where it's like, man, I'm not listening to you.
Well, that could be speculation. Some people say he does. Some people say it's really more Floyd, because Ellaby is pretty much Floyd.
For Floyd,
right? So it's all speculation.
Because at one time I thought Ellaby was a spokesperson for Heyman, because you never see Heyman.
Well, the thing about Heyman is more behind the scenes, but pretty much Al Heyman, when you talk about Al Heyman and you talk about Al Heyman in relation to Leonard Ellaby, you talk about Floyd. No, I'm talking about PBC. So Al Heyman is pretty much PBC.
Okay.
And anybody that knows about Al Heyman is notorious. He's been in the music business. He made it big. He's kind of like the silent guy that's made millions of dollars off
one
of music.
The godfathers.
Right. And so when he came over to boxing, he kind of did the same thing. But he's notorious for kind of being the godfather behind the scenes for PBC. PBC, of course, standing for Premier Boxing Champions.
But he stands really with PBC over Top
Well,
Rank.
he is PBC.
Okay.
Yeah, he is PBC. Okay. So in relation to him and Leonard Ellaby, is that Leonard Ellaby, of course, is with Floyd. That is the money team.
Right.
Floyd has agreed to be partners with Al Heyman. And actually, he's even came out in the press conference and said he kind of considered Al as kind of like a fatherly figure to him. And so Floyd has kind of pledged allegiance to Al Heyman.
Got you.
And
I understand now.
Right. Now let's not forget what's so big about PBC is back, and Cole, we're gonna let you spin on this in a minute, because I'm glad Jason asked these questions, because we're gonna bring it back to this relates to the topic. But PBC kind of came about when basically in the old days, Floyd fought on HBO.
Right.
And that's when he was with Top Rank. He was with Top Rank. He fought with HBO. When he eventually got out of that contract, and when you start to see Floyd start to go up and he's starting to ascend, he gets on his own. He pretty much goes out on his own. And when he goes out on his own, he partners with PBC. And that deal, what made that relationship so well between him and Al, is Al kind of let him do what he wanted to do.
Okay.
He kind of became his own promoter. After he had pretty much got all the things that he needed to get as far as fame, winning boxing matches.
So what fight could you bring me to where you would say he had just got with him?
Well, the fight,
the De La Hoya?
The fight, and well, I'm not gonna say he got with him, but what I remember about that fight was on HBO.
Yes.
And
that's
I
what
remember,
made me ask.
Right. And I remember about that fight, and I'm not gonna say for sure that's the fight when he switched over.
Yeah.
But that was the fight that was known that was Floyd's last fight, not being on top of that negotiation.
Oh,
when he fought De La Hoya, and Floyd made this comment, when he fought De La Hoya, he let De La Hoya, because De La Hoya had more fights. He was the A side in that fight. He basically dictated the terms of the fight, the glove size, because Floyd came out not too long ago and said sometimes you have to be the B side to get to the A side. That was the fight that made, from what I remember, he was the last. That was his last fight, not calling the shots.
Okay.
So when he beat Oscar,
that's when he was able to
right. That kind of made his fame go up, and then things started to change for him. I'm not gonna pinpoint and say that was the exact fight that he changed over.
What you're saying, though.
But that's when
it was kind of
right. And that's when you see HBO boxing, when you see Floyd, because remember, Floyd was responsible for the 24/7 series. He made that popular on HBO. You remember that, Cole? The 24/7, when they would go behind the scenes. Floyd was the star of that.
See, you had to make me understand it, because I honestly thought that was ESPN.
It was HBO, because remember, HBO boxing was the big thing in that era. But Floyd was the 24/7 star.
He started that.
Right. He made it famous. They did 24/7, but Floyd was the one that made everybody kind of
like
view
a lifestyle situation.
Right, because we started seeing his lifestyle, how he was just a pure boxer. And you saw how he lived with the girls, but always in the gym.
Yeah, that
so
was HBO.
That was HBO Top Rank. After that De La Hoya fight is when you start to see a shift where he ended up partnering with Al, and the money team was coming about. He ended up partnering with Al. When he got with Al allowed him to promote himself as a money team under PBC. And then when you see Floyd split, he goes over to Showtime. So when he goes over to Showtime, a lot of the boxers came with him. Right.
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily that they jumped on his team. They just came to Showtime.
They just went with Showtime because he was such a big star, and Showtime gave him such a mega deal. Thus, to me, in my opinion, kind of killed HBO boxing.
It killed it.
Yeah. So pretty much that's an opinion, but I think so.
Yeah, because all they had after that was the 24/7.
Right. They had 24/7, and then I think Pacquiao kind of hung around there for a while. What kept HBO afloat with 24/7.
When Floyd got back with Pacquiao, it was Showtime and HBO.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's when it was mega. You know, so then you see that fight with Pacquiao being with Top Rank, Bob Arum, Floyd doing his thing, PBC with Al Heyman. Okay. So and a lot of people don't realize, some people say Floyd ducked Pacquiao. Part of that business part of them being able to negotiate between Top Rank and PBC to get that fight, that kind of caused a little bit of the delay for that fight too. Because again, each side is jockeying for Al, and PBC is saying, I got the best fight in the business over here, but Bob and them are saying, well, Pacquiao is the best fight. How are they going to negotiate that? You see what I'm saying? Because that was such a mega fight between those two companies. But to bring it back to the topic we're talking about today, that's what's kind of going on, in the sense that Earl Spence, who's being represented by PBC, Al Heyman, and now you have Terrence Crawford, who's by himself. And so, again, the issue lies in that Crawford is saying that the PBC side is not revealing to him the information he needs to sign for the fight. And in particular, like the clip said, Terrence Crawford he agreed to take the smaller part of the purse, but he's not being shown the information that he wants in terms of what does the last part look like?
The back end.
The back end part of it.
So even if he wins, he still gets the lower purse.
Well, he gets the lower purse, and he agreed to that for the first fight. Now, we don't know much about. Of course, he agreed to a rematch. He got what you call a bilateral rematch, meaning that.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
What that means is, I'll take the lower end of the first fight, but based on the results of the first fight, if I win, I'm automatically going to have a rematch, which means that could be more renegotiation.
But even if he wins,
right. And if he wins, I can imagine him saying to himself, I want to renegotiate.
Yeah, he's A-list.
Right. I could be A-list, or the terms may change. But Cole, let me come back to you, because I know you favor Bud Crawford in this fight. How do you feel about this situation? What's going on in terms of what Max Kellerman and Michael Cobbinger are reporting about what's going on? I mean, it's weird to me. What do you feel about this situation?
I don't necessarily think they ducking. I don't necessarily think they're ducking Crawford. My issue is the transparency. As someone who's representing themselves, and we're doing this for the first time, he also has to establish, everyone's not going to do this to me every single time. Because if he lets them get away with it, the next boxing team is going to try to approach him with the same approach. I think that he should hold out personally until he finds out what the final financials are, and then go from there. Because he could be missing out on a couple $1 million. Basically, you don't know what they're hiding.
Right. And I agree. It's just so weird to me that they would even, if this is true, that they would even try to pull this. Being the type of fighter that Crawford is, to me, it's a little disrespectful in the sense that, this dude is also undefeated. This dude is undisputed. He's moved up. He's a top fighter. Why not he's already agreed. If this report is true, he's already agreed to take the lower end of the pot. Why would y'all not be transparent about the information?
Yeah.
Now, some people say this, and I'm going to ask you both.
And that's crazy. If I agreed to take the list of it, you can at least tell me where my money going. You know what I'm saying?
35, 60.
35 to 65. Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not accepting that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either if I was Terrence, bro.
Yeah,
I'm that dude too.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But I honestly think it's because of that independent situation.
Well, see, that's what I want to get to, because see, some people say, and some people have told Crawford about that, when you step away from Bob Arum, when you step away from Top Rank, and he made the most money on Top Rank. I think he
easily.
made.
I looked that up, bro.
I think he made like $6 million.
I looked that up. It was 8.
It might have been 8. Yeah, it might have been 6 or 8 million. But
and I don't understand, because I don't mean to cut you off, but it seems as though, and Cole, help me out, because you made a good point last time I was on here about Tank. If he leaves Floyd, he's basically leaving PBC and Al Heyman. And I remember you saying he can really go on his own, and he could. But with that politics and that political move, if Bob Arum is doing that, I could imagine Al and Floyd, with the relationship that they got, especially Ellaby, with the relationship they got, they could almost try to blackball. You see what I'm saying?
And I get that, but
I agree with you on that.
That's the reason why I think that Tank went back with him, because he knew that he didn't. It's gonna be so hard to get with Top Rank coming from Floyd.
But here's why I disagree with you on that. The only reason why I disagree, and I say the difference between Terrence's situation and Tank's situation, is Tank is a pay-per-view star.
Okay.
So the problem with Crawford, and I think they're trying to pull this with Crawford right now, they're not guaranteeing him any money because they don't have any numbers to fall back on as far as pay-per-view. I think him and Tank are different in that. Now, that's just my opinion.
That makes sense.
Because Tank has shown that, I mean, pretty much Tank owns the month of December when it comes to pay-per-view. So that's why I think Tank and Crawford are, I could be wrong, but I think Tank and Crawford are different, because Tank has shown that his numbers as far as pay-per-view, to me, if Tank goes on his own, if Tank decides to negotiate, whether it be Top Rank, whether it be Matchroom or whoever, Tank can go to them and say, despite me being on Floyd Mayweather Promotions, despite me being with PBC, I have in my resume, in my jacket, pay-per-view numbers that I can bring to y'all because of me. Now, they could say, well, to your point,
Ellaby made a comment when he was finna fight Roley, that I think I think he was talking to Bronner. It was Bronner. It was Tank finna fight Romelo, and Ellaby made a statement that Tank doesn't have the mouthpiece, so to speak, to speak for him as if he was with Floyd. Like, if he left Floyd, he doesn't have a mouthpiece to speak for him, because the only person that he had to speak for him other than Floyd or Ellaby is the trainer. Right. Whose unfortunately articulation isn't that proper.
Well, but again, it's just, to me, it's just the same. It's the same kind of appeal that Mike Tyson had. I don't think Mike Tyson could speak well either.
Exactly.
But what sold Mike Tyson's fights was you being able to go there and see somebody get knocked out.
But see, Mike also had a guy in his corner that was a mentor. I just can't think of his name. He was a mentor of Don. He just didn't follow Don like Don did. So when Don and Mike split up, I forgot the guy's name, but he took over as his mouthpiece. The only thing I didn't like about him is that he put too much influence on the Muslim. Like, he made them the security as well as one of the speakers for Tyson. You see what I'm saying? But I do recall Ellaby saying that if Tank was to leave, he would have to either hire or teach somebody in his camp to do the things that is not being done without the Floyd push.
But let me say this, to me,
it's a cop-out. Huh?
Well, your promoter's going to say that.
Right.
You know, of course,
I knew she's going to say that.
Of course, your promoter's going to say that. Your promoter's going to say that he doesn't have anybody to speak for him. He doesn't have anybody. I'm saying basically, and this is where I disagree. This is why I say with Tank, and we're gonna get into something next with this,
because I remember Cole was saying the same thing about Fleury.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
but
Fury, I'm sorry.
yeah, but you also got to remember this about Tank, and this is to me, this is what sells for Tank. He's 135 pounds. We already know he's a knockout artist. We haven't never seen that before from somebody that's small. I told you the closest
so that's
thing.
his appeal.
Yeah, it's his appeal. And let's be honest. I told y'all, in my opinion, I didn't realize how good of a boxer he was until I started really watching him. But what got me to buy the pay-per-view, what got me to want to look at this guy is I saw a clip of him knock somebody out, and I was like, look at this dude. He's 5'5", and he looked like he weighed 120 something pounds. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be honest with you, his appeal to me, he's from Baltimore. Baltimore is a rough inner city. I like to see inner city guys. One of the things I love about boxing is that draw. The inner city guys, the guys that didn't have nothing, who came from nothing, he represents that. I mean, really, let's be honest about Tank. Who else in the boxing game? And when I talk about his aura, who else in the boxing game represents that image that we can go see?
Nobody right now.
He's the best at it.
Yeah.
Even Earl is from Dallas, but Earl doesn't have that draw. You may get a little bit of that from the Charlo twins.
That's the closest.
But
a little from Stevenson.
Yeah,
a little bit. But Stevenson, but the
he's
thing
more
about
class. Like when y'all talking about class,
but
that's a whole nother level.
But again, with Stevenson's appeal is, yes, he's from Newark. He's from an inner city, but he's always smiling.
Yeah.
He's always got a positive attitude.
That class y'all was talking about.
Right. He doesn't have the tattoos. He represents
boxing
the good kid,
real.
and we mainly like him because of his smile and his boxing.
He ain't rough around the edges.
Right. And so when you see Tank, and I think boxing needs that guy. That's what made Tyson so good. You know, out of all those heavyweights, Riddick Bowe.
That's a good point.
Evander Holyfield, Tyson was that guy.
He was that rebel.
Right. And so I think for Tank,
go after that appeal, that promotional appeal.
Well, he naturally has it.
I got
you know what I'm saying? He naturally has it. He's not faking it. No. He comes from an inner city. He comes from one of the rougher inner cities.
Tommy Hearns type of thing.
Right, exactly. From Detroit. You know what I'm saying?
Point.
So I think with that, I mean, nobody was expecting Mike Tyson to get up there and talk like Floyd. You see what I'm saying? To talk, or talk like Roy Jones.
Yeah, it just seems like all your greatest fighters are dumb.
Well, not necessarily dumb, but again, I mean, listen, to all you boxers watching there, he said that. I didn't say that. I love you guys. I know y'all are not dumb.
I'm sorry.
But I'm just saying with Tank's,
don't beat me up.
I'm just saying with Tank's appeal, I think along with his knockout power, that's why he sells our pay-per-views. And I think that's the reason why Floyd, Leonard Ellaby, why they try to hold on him so much. Because if Tank goes, I'm not talking about the money team stable. I'm not gonna make fun of that.
Yeah.
But you don't know if you're gonna have a guy like that coming around.
True.
You know, the element that he appeals to, the power that he has.
I agree when you said as far as his age and his time.
Right. So I think, I think him versus Crawford is different. Now, Crawford, boxing wise, he can go negotiate with companies and all that. But again, back to our point, what you were saying, I think that's a problem right now. It could be a problem. Or some people saying that's a problem right now with his negotiation. He doesn't have any pay-per-view numbers. So that's why they playing hardball with him as far as negotiation. I mean, what do you think about that, Cole? You think that could be a part of the reason why they're not being transparent?
I don't know. I can't. You know a little bit more on that one than me. I don't really want to.
Let me give you a scenario. Because you're good at this. We always have conversations about ownership, GMs, things like that. Terrence Crawford comes to you, and I want you to try to take the bias out that you have for Terrence Crawford, which is a good bias. But I want you to take it out, and let's just say you're a promoter. Let's say you're trying to build this fight, and based on what you've seen, Terrence Crawford is a great fighter. He's the more technical fighter between him and Spence. But if Terrence Crawford is coming to you saying, I want guaranteed money, okay? Now, you're a promoter. Let's go into the mindset of a promoter. Let's go into the mindset of an owner, okay? Yes, you want to make this fight, okay? But you also want to make this fight as profitable as you can for you and your company, the television networks. You got all of that in your mind. You got all of this. You're trying to negotiate this, because when you're negotiating from those terms, or that genre rather, you can't just think about, like we're thinking about it as fans, because it's the greatest fight. It's an undisputed fight by two undefeated guys who have great resumes. So we just want the fight. But if you're looking at it in terms of a promoter, you got a guy saying, I want guaranteed money. Now, in your heart of heart as a businessman, you're going to say, okay, that's okay, but you're trying to negotiate with me to guarantee you money. I know where Earl Spence, and again, this is my money-making mindset. I know with Earl Spence, I've got numbers. Earl's got an impressive resume. He's got 3 belts, but I've got numbers. Earl fighting in Dallas Cowboys Stadium, where he's made Jerry Jones a lot of money. Okay. I've got pay-per-view numbers. I've got it on paper. Earl can always come to me. Now, Earl is my fighter if I'm representing PBC. So I know I'm going to make money off of Earl. Remember, the game is per pay-per-view. It's how many we're going to sell this fight for, $85 to $100.
Okay.
So Terrence Crawford is coming to you and saying, I want guaranteed money. Now, you're probably going to be okay with that, but you're going to probably say to yourself, as a business mind, you're a great fighter, but I don't know. I don't have anything evidence-wise to show that you're a pay-per-view draw, because you never fought on pay-per-view before. And
Terrence never fought on pay-per-view?
Not that I recall of.
Wow.
He's fought on ESPN.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never paid, and I'm a boxing fan. I've never paid for
that.
Terrence Crawford. He always fights on ESPN. You see what I'm saying?
Bro.
And so he doesn't have any pay-per-view numbers. As a promoter, Cole, does that not play a factor in your mind? Because at the end of the day, if he's saying, and you know he's probably got a number in his mind that you're going to probably try to negotiate down, okay? Because he is the B side of this fight. But there's no evidence to show that if you guarantee him money, that money's going to come back in the pay-per-view buys. Even though we know this is going to be a super fight, if you playing hardball as a businessman, show me the numbers. Show me the pay-per-view. I know Earl. That's why I can justify giving Earl the bigger part of the pot, because I know Earl. I got evidence. And again, we know Terrence Crawford is worth a lot of money. But as a business mind, as you negotiating, if you're going to play hardball, and we know most business guys play hardball,
you got to have something.
You got to have something to bring. I mean, what do you think, Cole? Do you think that hurts him because he doesn't have any pay-per-view numbers? You think that's why they're playing hardball with him?
I see it from 3 different scenarios. I see one scenario being that if Spence loses, they're going to lose the more money on the second fight than they could have, than they would have made on the first fight. So I can see them trying to play hardball to secure the pot for both fights. Yeah, I can see that. Right. Point number 2, it makes me think about when you go on a job interview, whether you work for the company or not. When you don't work for a company, or as a matter of fact, when you work for the company, sometimes they try to lowball you and not give you what the person coming into.
Right. That's what I mean about the business model. Right.
So I get the business model. I definitely get the business model. It's hard because I feel like in the boxing world, everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows what Spence brings to the table. He's a top shelf. He's ranked number 2 by 3 Kings Boxing. But for the business model, I'm gonna say, like, I'm not mad at them doing that, because that's the way you run your business. Like, exactly. I can't sit there and knock them. But at the same time, if I could understand Spence standing firm, because he's probably saying to himself, I don't have to fight this fight. I could fight Crawford. I'm sorry. I could fight someone else, and still make a good amount of money and probably get more money out of it by being the A side. So, but I see both perspectives, but I think that, he might have to take the L on this one. So just so that he can set himself up for the next fight.
Right. And the thing is, and I want to go back to JT's point. That's an excellent point, in the sense that that's why I brought it up too. Like, some people are saying, if you would have stayed with Top Rank, this wouldn't be an issue.
It wouldn't be an issue.
Because you with that company, and, when it comes to business, that company is going to make sure that you get at least close to what you're asking for.
But I can't knock him for that because I feel like a lot of times what happens to a lot of sports in sports players is that they let people do the job that they could do
Right.
themselves, and they just put a little
Right.
bit of time and effort.
Right.
And you cut the middleman out, you make money, just like Lamar Jackson's doing, just like a
Right.
couple of other NBA players. Like, hey, I'm
Right.
negotiating my own contract, so I can't knock him for that because they be
Right.
stealing
Right.
from these athletes all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And then and just to add to that point, and just to let you all know, I do agree with Crawford because I feel like, listen, I'm already taking. I agreed to be the B side of this fight. Okay. I agree for the first fight that, you know, I'll take the smaller half because Earl is the pay-per-view draw. Earl has more pay-per-view buys. Earl has more belts. So I'll take the small end of the purse because at the end of the day, for two reasons. For one, I know I can win.
Yes.
For two,
That's a good
right.
Yeah.
For two, I know I can win, but I'm gonna prove it to y'all. I know I can win. For two, you know, I really want this fight. You know, and I know y'all gonna play hard ball because, you know, Earl is y'all guy. I only have one belt at this division. I get it. But, you know, my hat's off to Terrence Crawford because I think he's agreeing. I think he's doing the right thing as far as taking a small end of the purse.
Like you
But,
said,
but I also
Floyd said it. Sometimes you
right,
have to do that.
right,
Yeah.
right. And again, I take my hat off to him because again, y'all could at least show me how I'm gonna get paid. Okay. I'm already
That's only
green.
fair.
Right.
That's
And
only fair.
I'm basically taking what after everything else gets paid, I'm taking what's left. Y'all could at least show me where that's gonna come from.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying? Give me the respect as a champion. Give me a respect as a top boxing champion.
Yeah.
Like y'all know
Because
how
at the
dirty.
end of the day, I could not want them 2 rooms. You
Right,
know what I'm saying?
right.
I don't need a
Mhm.
big room.
Right.
Especially if I'm independent. Like I know as an independent artist, like it's some things that we just won't take in order to
Exactly.
get that in our bag.
Exactly.
Like we don't need a green room. We don't need a dressing room. We don't need you don't have to make no flyers for us.
Right.
We'll do it all ourselves. But I know a lot of times the people that we talk to like that, they want to see is the independent push that y'all have behind y'all worth being on our platform.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I can see a PBC or a Top Rank coming at Terrence
PBC,
like PBC, I'm sorry, coming at Earl. I mean, coming at Terrence like, okay, if you're gonna put out your own commercials, are they of this quality?
Right. Especially, like I said, back to Tank, especially when you don't have pay-per-view numbers behind you.
Exactly.
So I get that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I still side. I'm gonna always side with the fighter.
I understand.
I'm gonna side with Crawford because again, y'all
earned it. He paid his dues.
Right, and y'all could show me that. It's not like he's fighting somebody that
and that's why
he's legitimately giving them a shot to fame. You see what I'm saying? So y'all could at least show me that. And again, I'm taking this because I really want this fight, and I know I can win. I know I can win. And once I win, I'm gonna be able to flip the negotiations. You see what I'm saying? So I get both sides, but I stand with the fighter on this. I think this fight still gets made because according to what I'm hearing in the media, both fighters really want this fight. I saw Earl tweet something today that everybody shouldn't necessarily give up on this, that it's going to happen. So I think it's going to happen. I think if both fighters, and this is what I mean about fighters, I think they both need to push and continue to push these companies that this is the biggest fight in boxing. And what I mean by that is both fighters, this is for undisputed. Both fighters are undefeated. This is for the best in the world to me. I think whoever wins this first fight, and we definitely will have a rematch because even with Tank and Ryan, we all know that Tank is better than Ryan, and we all pretty much know that Tank is going to beat Ryan. Devin Haney is fighting George Kambosos. We know that Devin Haney is going to outclass George Kambosos. So this is the most even pay-per-view fight that we got coming up. Deontay Wilder fights this month, but it's not for any belts. It's not for nothing. This is the biggest fight in boxing. Maybe one of the biggest fights since Floyd and Pacquiao. You know, maybe. But with that being said, we're talking about promotional companies. We're talking about situations with contracts. One of the questions that came up this week, and we'll show this photo, concerning coming out of the Money Team camp with Gervonta Tank Davis and of course Floyd Mayweather. You know, some people, after we're going to show y'all this photo, but some people are saying, is Gervonta really with Floyd or is he really with Al? Some people don't buy this photo because they say every time that Gervonta is getting ready to get into a fight, he does something like this. But he posted this photo on Instagram, and I want everybody to see this photo. If you haven't seen it, Gervonta posted it and then he takes it down. He's notorious for doing stuff like this. He posts it and he takes it down. But Cole, can you see this photo? Everybody, I want you to see this photo. Cole, can you see that photo?
Yeah, I can see the photo, man.
Hey, y'all did my partner dirty, man.
And ladies and gentlemen, let me explain something to you. This may seem like a comic moment right now, but I really want to get both of these co-hosts' opinion on this. I saw this the other day. Tank. So for anybody who doesn't know, Gervonta Tank Davis posted this video, this picture on, I believe, on his Instagram account. And I just so happened to be surfing the boxing world, and I ran across this photo. As you can see, we got Floyd Mayweather standing. Looks like he's in a very cold place. Some people say it's Russia. But he's got on, there you go, Cole, you back. But he's got on, looks like a jacket with some very, very small, uncomfortable looking shorts with his knees.
Those are not shorts, bro. Those are bloomers.
Okay, bloomers, whatever you want to call it.
WWF
right, with his knees ashy, with some I know they expensive boots. I don't know what kind of boots.
Fendi, man.
They Fendi boots. Fendi, okay, so man. JT knows he's more in the fashion world with me.
Hey, I don't know that. Hey, look.
But let me ask you this, because I want to go around the room and we on the topic about promotional companies and how things go with different promoters and relationship to fighters. But let me start with you, Cole. What is going through your mind when you see this photo and you know that Gervonta Tank Davis posted this photo? What I mean, what there's so, you know, some people say there's 1,000 words in a picture. What do you think about when you see this photo, when you see a fighter promote this photo with his so-called, I guess, promoter or CEO? What goes through your mind? Because I definitely want to get your opinion and I want to get JT's opinion, but we'll start with you, Cole. What comes to mind when you see a photo like this?
I just really feel like Gervonta just probably isn't over some of the stuff the stuff that Floyd done to him in the past. He probably still feels slighted. For example, the situation where Floyd he's under Floyd's camp and Floyd is taking one of his main rivals, Devin Haney, and he was trying to train Haney. And back then, I think that was in 2020, Gervonta had an issue with that, and I would have an issue with that too. Like, if you my trainer, why are you training my arch rival, the person that's, you know, my nemesis, the person I'm gonna have to fight? You're teaching them secrets about me. You're teaching them, you know, the same skill sets I'm learning, and I wouldn't feel that as a boxer. And then I feel the other part to it is that I don't think, and this is my opinion, I think Gervonta is also feeling a certain way because of fights that he's getting. I feel like Mayweather's team is not allowing him to fight certain fights when he wants to fight certain fights. So he says he wants to fight certain fights. I don't know which one's lying, which one's telling the truth, but I think it's getting to the point where it becomes contentious. But I also think that this could just be some type of comedy that Gervonta is just on, some just being Gervonta. So
okay, and you know, I somewhat agree with what you're saying. I want to spin on this, but I want to go to Jason now because this photo is still up, and I want to ask Jason what comes to mind when you see this. I mean, when you see this, and when you see this fighter post this about Floyd Mayweather, you know, a guy that's been in his camp, a guy that's been under his tutelage, a guy that Gervonta, he supposedly takes care of Gervonta. He supposedly advises Gervonta. Gervonta is supposed to be his #1 fighter. I mean, what do you think about this? How would you perceive this? And I know, Jason, you've had a label before. You've been a CEO. watched over a stream of artists.
Yeah.
You've been an artist yourself. How would you feel if one of your artists or your top artists, I mean,
you know what? You
post that photo
you
about
made
you?
a great point. Now, let me say this. Because you said that, it's confirmation on my belief. Now, just like you said, I had a label at one time, and I had to have artists. Now, my label consisted of artists who were not only family, but as well as brothers and friends. So I could see a Fito Doja, you know what I'm saying, posting that about me.
That's one of his artists.
One of my old artists, I could see him posting that about me, or especially Feet or Soldier posting that about me because of the way we play.
Okay.
But I also see them posting that about me if I don't show up to an event. If I don't show up somewhere where I was supposed to be, I can see them getting their feelings and like posting something about me when I wasn't on my note. But knowing that about my artists, I wouldn't take it personally. But for this situation, if Tank posted this, it's not a good look, bro. It's very damaging to my brand as well as who I say is my mentor. If right now I'm an artist as well as I'm a VP on most series, right? If Chuck was post this about me in this time, I would feel kind of slighted, like, bro, you didn't have nothing with my pants on, or like I just can't see a post, especially on social media. You have to see me in all my glory, then turn around and see my boy post this. Is very damaging to the brand. Right. You know what I'm saying? I would need for Tank to come back and give a like ha moment, like that's my dog, that's my bro. He's too rich to be tripping on, but this is bad.
But
this is terrible.
But I think for Mayweather, he's used to it. Like 50 Cent used to do this to him all the time. You get what I'm saying? So I think that Mayweather.
But not
I don't think I've seen a response. I don't think I even seen a response from Mayweather. It's probably like, it is what it is. He's he's sensitive right now. You know, Javante's is being sensitive right now.
I mean, I get that. I get that. I mean, and maybe
this is bad.
And maybe in hindsight, that's.
Can I take it off now?
Yeah, you can take it off. I think in hindsight that may be exactly the way Floyd handles it. We don't know if anything has been handled in-house.
If Floyd wants to recover from this, he has to treat it like a ha moment and not respond, bro.
He's too big for it. It's just like Jay and Nas. They're not responding to no Waka Flocka Flame or someone trying to come at them. They're gonna be like, I'm not going to give him any fame. Like, I'm not going to give him any clout. So he's probably going to laugh it off, say something to him when he sees him in the gym, and
he has to. He has to.
I mean,
he can't respond.
I mean, I get what y'all are saying.
He can't respond. With them boys finna fight in another month, he can't respond in a negative way. He has to just let this ride out, bro.
I mean,
if anything, he need to post a picture with his pants on and that same thing just to show his Photoshop. But he can't come back and say anything to Javante. He can't say anything to Javante's camp because it's going to look extremely bad for Floyd to speak on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Floyd, you way too above this. It's got to be a ha-ha moment.
I mean, I get that. I get it. I mean, I think in hindsight, it might be exactly what y'all saying. Like, it's just a ha-ha moment, but I don't know, man, because at the end of the day, you know, if you follow Tank, if you know Tank, Tank does stuff like this. Some people say that
because I wanted to say it was a joke. It wasn't because you know me, bro. When Bake sends me something and it's all the way like that, I have to do some research because, like, I know these fools didn't give my boy no ammo, so I had to do some. And a lot of things say it was Photoshop, it was a hacker and Tanks, but no, because only Javante got the double A's after him. You know what I'm saying? If I would have saw a what you call it, a underscore line. That's Tank, bro.
I mean, people that follow Tank say he's up to this.
This is what he does.
There's been other rumors that Tank supposedly put some public information out that he was trying to talk to Floyd's daughter. I mean, so he's done silly things like this.
I mean, hood thing.
It is, but I don't like it personally.
I don't. It's a black eye on the sport. It's a black eye on
right.
You don't do that for who riding with you, bro.
Right. I don't like it. I really don't like it. I mean, people should say you shouldn't be. I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed in Tank, but to me, it doesn't look right.
Not right now.
For the money team, it doesn't look right for the relationship. Yeah. Of course, Floyd is not going to respond. Of course, Floyd is going to keep doing what Floyd does. But I mean, I don't know. It's
definitely a bad look.
Well, maybe I'm a little bit too sensitive, but I have been hard on the money team. I have been hard on Floyd, but this, to me, what I heard,
talking about though,
right?
Exactly what you were talking about.
What I heard,
I'm surprised you're not gloating in this.
Well,
moment. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing: it's what I hear. It's what I've been thinking. This adds to the point where me personally, I wouldn't want Floyd as my promoter. But if I decided to go with him like Tank did, I wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's boxing, it's a business, it's ugly. To me,
and that's my thing, like you just said, I don't mean to cut you off, but if Tank chose to ride with these dudes,
right? You
chose to stay with them. You can't stay and then post something like this,
right?
If you're not really rocking, bro.
And that's my point. Like I just think it adds to my theory. Like I don't think things are as cozy as it seems over there.
Obvious.
It's not as cozy as it seems, and
it's obviously
it's kind of disappointing. And again, like I said, I've heard other guys who've been over there saying the same thing. They don't do this, but they say that they're not getting treated well. It seems to me, as far as money, Tank might be getting treated well, but I don't think he's getting the fights that he could be getting. But with that being said, I mean, come on, Tank. Yeah, I mean, come on now. Like the guy,
this is not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, even if you're not happy with the guy, keep it in house, ride out your contract, you sign with him. And ride this thing. It's not like you over there starving. You might not be getting the fights that you want, but you had the opportunity to leave. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I'm hard on Floyd as far as promoting, but it's kind of like, man, when I see this, I'm like, well, maybe that's why Floyd. Maybe that's why he treat Tank the way he treat Tank, which might not be bad, but that's the reason why you not right. Right.
I was actually going to say that. I was about to say maybe there's a misconception of Floyd about people saying, they get treated bad, because I think maybe his standard of excellence is probably higher. Just like Jordan, just like Kobe, they say that they used to treat their teammates, whack, but they're supreme athletes. They're athletes that are top 5 ever to play the game in their arena, and Mayweather is top 5 ever to fight in the boxing ring. I think that maybe his standard of excellence is higher, and the way he treats them is probably to motivate them to be better, and they're taking it the wrong way.
Well, that's a good point. Some people say, I can understand that to a certain extent. Some people say that about Michael Jordan and the Wizards. Wizards are not that successful. Some people say about ex-athletes in particular, when they become coaches, when they become agents, when they become team managers and stuff like that, because they played at a certain level or operate at a certain level, the expectations for those that come after them can't be matched because of their level is high. There's some validity to that point. I still think that the money team, when it comes to, and again, when I talk about the money team, I'm not necessarily saying it's all Floyd. I'm just saying it's Floyd's name on it. It appears to me that things are not going right over there in terms of that. A lot of those guys don't stay. You know what I'm saying?
Not looking good.
Right. So, it could be what you're saying, Cole. It could be that Floyd holds them to a high standard, and maybe most guys can't deal with that. But again, it also comes down to, some guys are, just because they're great players doesn't mean they can teach the game well, because their greatness is just off the level, right? It might be talent. It might be that, what they hold themselves to, which makes them great. You can't expect certain people to. That's why you're great, because certain people can't operate at the level that you operate. But again, you know, it just, to me, it just, what's going on over there, this doesn't look good, and it could all be false. Just doesn't look good, you know. And I'm really, I can't say I'm disappointed in Tank because he's done this kind of stuff before. I mean, I can say that, but it's just like, I don't see the sense of him posting it. It's funny though. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw it, I sent it to y'all. I sent it to JT, and I was like, "Wow,
what is he doing?"
Right? Like, come on, man. But you know, it is what it is, man. You know, sometimes a contract doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is gonna be all hunky dory. You know, it's not gonna be all, you know, ice cream and everything is good. You know, it's a contract. It's a, you know, it's something that says, for this period of time, I'm gonna pay you for this.
Yeah, that's it, and that's all it is.
And people got to realize in contracts that when you sign a contract, no matter how successful you are at the beginning, you sign for that deal.
You rocking with it,
and you may look impressive, and people get in your ear and say, "Man, you worth more than that." Yeah, but I signed for this.
Gotta hold it down.
You know what I'm saying? So I signed for this. So
you gotta hold it down till you done.
Right,
Keep
right.
your comments and your dumbness to yourself.
Right, right. Yeah. So I mean, hey, you know, I don't know.
Great point, bro.
Yeah, it's just, you know, but that photo, man, I know Tank took it down, but I'm keeping that photo. God, man. Woo, Lord Jesus.
Yeah, that's sad. You don't do that against the team. You don't make the team look bad, bro. I don't care what kind of problem you got. You don't make the team look bad in public. I don't care. We handle that indoors with the camp. You don't do that.
I mean, Cole, I didn't even get a chance to ask you this, but if your top fighter is posting that, what do you do? What did you do as a promoter? You obviously you said you're not gonna give a public statement, but do you pull them to the side? What do you do?
I definitely pull them to the side. I asked them, where's that come from? Like, did I miss something with lack of communication? Like, you could come to me with whatever issues you had. Don't let that happen again.
Please.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Don't let that happen again.
There's gotta be something in your contract,
I'll let this one
bro.
slide. I'll let this one slide, yo.
Straight up. But it's gotta be something in your contract to say you
can't yo.
Dick.
This is your free play right here. This is your free play right here.
Cole said,
you gotta let me, I feel you, Cole.
Cole said, "Is this something I missed?"
Straight up, bro. Like your bag didn't come.
Seriously.
You know what I'm saying? Bro,
you
came to me with my boots on, bro, and some bloomers, bro. What were you looking to get out of that?
Exactly.
What was you trying to get some laughs? I would have to put him to the side, like, what was the motive?
My uncle used to always say, "What part of the game is
that?" Yeah, what we doing, bro? Like, you didn't put an LOL on that thing or nothing. You know, you didn't put an emoji. You didn't put, "I'm just joking." Nah, bro, we gonna have to talk. And I might have a camera on.
Or you could have, you know what? You could have put on a TMT shirt and you could have put somebody else's face on there. Why you put my face on?
In my glory, bro. In my glory. We talking about that. And I might have a camera on just so the camera can see, hey, bro, you was out of line. Say something on this camera. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do like Baby doing 1, 2, 3, go. You was just joking, babe, because we can't, it's not making neither one of us look good. We already don't know the other people in my camp. So imagine one of these 8 Bennett's. Like, yeah, man, I'm walking with TMT, man, and that's the flow. Nah, we gonna talk about that before the fight. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me.
You gotta set them straight, man. You gotta set them straight. Other people in the camp start thinking they can get away with that.
Real talk.
They'll have memes all over the place.
Come on, bro.
But anyway, speaking of rocky relationships, brings us to our next topic, which we talking about, which I think we're in either week 4 or 5 of the NFL's regular season. And one topic we want to talk about, and we know this is a little bit soon as far as the NFL, but there's been some questionable performances in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And the question that we have on today's topic in the NFL is, who is on the hot seat as far as quarterback in the NFL after week 4? And next to that topic, we got who has this year only to prove themselves, meaning that these particular players are on the hot seat, meaning that they haven't performed up to the ability, or meaning that, you know, maybe it's time for them to retire, or is it maybe it's time for them to move on from the team? And in particular, we got a list that we talked about, and we want to get opinions on this. But first and foremost, one of the first quarterbacks we want to talk about that could be on the hot seat is Baker Mayfield, who just left the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns decided, of course, they got Deshaun Watson, signed him to a major contract. But Baker Mayfield was one of the top. I mean, he probably was the number one player selected in the draft about a couple of years ago, and he's underperformed in terms of his expectations as a quarterback. Cole, Baker Mayfield, do you think he's on the hot seat as far as quarterbacks? This is one of the first quarterbacks we're going to talk about. Do you think he's on the hot seat, or do you think time is running out for him, and why?
Yeah, hot seat, man. This man's on his way to hell. He needs to ask God for forgiveness right now. Straight up, he needs to save his soul, because you trade for a man who's been a journey. He's about to be on the verge of being a journeyman, but he was in Cleveland. He had a stacked team. You have Hunt, you have Chubb, you have Odell Beckham, you have Landry. You had a great, awesome defense, and you couldn't get your team to win a Super Bowl or even to the AFC Championship game. And he had multiple years as a starting quarterback, no competition, no one to take his job. And now he comes over to the Carolina Panthers, where he wins the starting job. And I think this is the last year of his contract. That's one of the reasons why they traded for him. But this is the last opportunity to me to really solidify himself as a starter in the league. He has talent on that side. You have DJ Moore, you have Robbie Anderson, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got a great defense over there, but they're 1-3. Like, how many times do you get an opportunity? I don't want to bring this card up, because I was going to say if it was a black quarterback, he wouldn't even get this many chances. But
that's a good point.
I'm not even gonna go there. I just think that this is his last opportunity to show that he can do something. The NFC is kind of weak, so there should be no reason why he shouldn't make the playoffs, at least a wild card game or something. But this is very last chance of being a starter in this league. Otherwise, I think he's going to end up being a journeyman, like Carson Wentz, and going to play for a team that just can't get a high enough draft pick and can't get a good enough quarterback, and they just want someone who's going to win some games for them. So that's my opinion.
Right. I agree. I've never been high on this guy. To me, first of all, he's a smaller quarterback, and he had some success at Oklahoma. But what I saw in college, I question whether or not that could translate over to the NFL, simply because in college, he didn't have a lot of plays to me that resembled the type of athleticism you need in the National Football League. And what I mean by that is, when you get to the NFL, you're playing against one of the big things about the NFL that makes it a distinct league from any other league is the caliber athlete that you're going against. He never had breakaway speed as far as being able to get away from defensive linemen in the NFL the way that you need. People thought he had a big arm. A big arm in college, to me, doesn't necessarily translate over to a big arm in the NFL. And what I mean by that is, the defense is faster. You have less time to sit back in the pocket and dissect. You have less time to sit back and be able to plan your target for receivers. He did a lot of that in college, where he didn't face the type of pressure that he was going to face in the NFL. And so at the end of the day, what I saw from him in the college game didn't, as far as his athleticism, I didn't think it would translate over to the NFL, and it seems like I was right about that.
And to add to that, can I add to that?
Yeah.
So to add to that, the highest possible QB rating that any QB can get is a 158.3.
That's right.
Baker Mayfield is ranked number 30 in the league right now.
That's
out
right.
of a possible 33 quarterbacks that played this season. So that tells you that he's underperforming. He has a 75 QB rating.
That's right.
That's for a starter, for someone who's been in the league starting for what, 4 or 5 years.
That's right.
You have to be more experienced and be able to at least have in the 80s, possibly 90s. I'm
Right.
sorry,
Right.
he has to show up or he's out.
And I think this year they've won one game and they've had 3 losses. I think you said that earlier. I think in his losses, his QBR was 72.6. Even in his wins, he was only 83.8, I think, as far as his QBR. So, you know, I always had questions about this guy because, simply I thought he got a lot of hype. I thought he fit that mold of what they wanted the quarterback to look like, act like. As far as the media, they really, really pumped this guy up. And everything that they pumped up about him, it just never seemed like it would translate over to the NFL for me. For me, a college quarterback, and people have to remember this, in college, you run different systems in college and when I say systems, I say offensive systems that you're not going to be able to run in the NFL simply because of how fast the athletes are. And he never displayed to me anything that when it comes to an NFL pro style offense. Now I think he did run one at Oklahoma. I'm not sure, but he played at Oklahoma, which is was it the Big 12 when he was playing? I think it was the Big 12 when he was playing at Oklahoma. I think they were playing Texas. I could be wrong with that, but it's not like facing the SEC. And to me, the SEC, there's a lot of great athletes from the SEC. Majority, a big percentage come from the SEC. But he never showed me anything at Oklahoma that made me think that he could last in the NFL. And so what's going on with him? And I thought he was a little fragile as well. He made a lot of excuses in the media. I think he had an incident in Cleveland where he even talked about his teammates in the media, and I think that affected his performance because I think they kind of gave up on him. And again, like you said, his roster was stacked. I mean, he had Odell Beckham, who I think was still in his prime. Some people don't think he was in his prime when he left the Giants, but I still think he was in his prime when he went to the Browns. You had Jarvis Landry starting to ascend. And don't forget, I think you had the two-headed monster as far as running backs. Was it Hakeem Hunt and what's the other guy?
Hakeem Hunt and Nick Chubb.
And and he had a solid offensive line. I think they went to the playoffs one year and they went to the first round and they ended up getting bounced out of the first round. But he's just underperformed. And I think Carolina is his last shot because I don't see him, even though he doesn't have the athleticism I think it takes. I don't see the technical side. I don't see the fundamentals on high. I mean, he throws it okay, but he's not doing anything that's, jaw-dropping or anything like that. He relies a lot on his athleticism. And so I don't see the film study. I don't see him taking accountability. Like I said, he cried a lot in Cleveland. I don't see much room for him to get better. Now, I could be wrong. He's just 27 years old, I think. And some people are giving him the outlet because he's been hurt a lot. But I don't see him getting that much better. Now, of course, I think the NFL will turn him into a backup. He'll end up being a backup. He'll end up sticking around just because the NFL likes him, the image he's got. I mean, he's got more commercials than anybody, and he's underperformed to me, which is crazy to me. I think the guy's a bust. I've never been high on him. Even in college, I've never been high on him. And his numbers are not good. He doesn't, to me, for a quarterback to get better, he doesn't show me the things off the field, and I mean the film study that shows that he's putting in that time. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. In order for a quarterback who does not have superior athleticism to get better, you have to be in that film room. I mean, one of the reasons why Peyton Manning lasted so long is because he spent so much time in the film room. I mean, of course, some people say he was accurate. We know he definitely couldn't scramble. But in today's defense, Gerard, on 3rd and 5, you have to be a dual threat quarterback, or you got to be like Brady. You got to be very smart. You know, you can't turn
quickly.
Right. And you can't turn the ball over. He turns the ball over too much as well. So I don't know. I think he's definitely on the hot seat. I think if he's out, I think they'll end up, somebody will pick him up and make him a backup. But I think he's one of the guys, he's good as gone to me, you know. I never liked the guy. I never saw what everybody was. I never saw all the hype in the press about the guy. Somebody even around here in Houston was talking about bringing him here. I said, if you bring him here, it's just like having Davis Mills. He was just a higher draft pick to me. You know, I think the guy is done. I think he doesn't get another starting job after this. And I know some people say, well, that sounds rough, but I'm just telling you, I never was impressed with the guy. You know, I mean, he's a good athlete. I'm not saying he's not, but he's not a great athlete. And so that, with him not putting in the work in the film room, I mean, look at his body. You know, is he putting in time in the weight room? I mean, I don't know. You know, you can look at, and you might have this guy on your list. You can look at Russell Wilson, though, and despite what's going on in Denver right now, and I don't think he's a guy quite yet because he just got there. I think people are rushing on Russell because of what they expected from him. But if you look at Russell Wilson, as small as he is, you can tell he's in the weight room. And he's not that much taller than Baker Mayfield, but they look like two totally different athletes, even though they're pretty much almost the same size. So I think he's definitely on that list. Next, we got Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. I got them together. Tell me what you think about these guys. Are they definitely, you can go one by one if you want. They definitely, to me, are on the hot seat. Give me your opinion about it.
They definitely on the hot seat for me. I don't know if they're on the hot seat to never start again, but I think they're on the hot seat with their teams as far as being the starting quarterback for their teams. Derek Carr has a 83 QB rating. He's thrown 4 interceptions, and they're 1-3. Derek Carr is probably one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. I'm talking about he's a little mobile, and he has one of the most beautiful throws that you have in football, with the best receiver. With the best receiver in the NFL, probably the best top 5 tight end with Waller. And then you got Renfro, one of the best route runners. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in the top of the league every year in regards to yards, touchdowns, and wins. And he just isn't producing. Some people say it's because he's in the same division as Mahomes with Herbert with Chargers, and now you have Russell Wilson over there. But to me, I just think that he's been consistently inconsistent since he's been in the league, and is showing. In regards to Cousins was good in Washington, but we all know the reason why he got the job in Washington was because what's his name got hurt. The ESPN commentator.
Right. Was it RG3?
Yeah. So Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is this is his last opportunity. He's been the quarterback there for some years now, for about maybe 6 years now as the starting quarterback.
Right.
They made strides. They had, I think, 1 or 2 playoff seasons, but nothing consistent. Every year is like, okay, you don't know which Derek Carr you're gonna get. It's Jekyll and Hyde. Right. And I think they're gonna have to move on from him if they don't do nothing this year, because they supplied him with all the tools. They gave him the best receiver in the league with Devontae Adams. You have a top 5 tight end with Waller. You have one of the best route runners in Refno, and you have a great running game with Josh Jacobs from Alabama. So he has no excuses anymore.
But let me ask you this. I'm a little bit inclined. I understand what you're saying about him being on the hot seat. I'm a little bit inclined to give him a little bit more rope, simply because of this. 2 reasons. For one, it's been chaotic there as far as how many coaches and offensive coordinators he's had. For 2, he's always been hurt, and I'm kind of split on that, in the sense that, to me, if you're getting hurt all the time, and I'm pretty sure he's done this, is something that you're doing. Maybe you're not doing something in the off season. So I'm going to err on the side of caution. But when I say that, I believe he's trying to do everything he can to get himself healthy. It makes me wonder though, because his body looks the same to me than it was when he started getting hurt. But number 3 is this, and don't forget this: he just got the number 1 receiver in the league this year. So I'm not giving him a pass, but I'm a little bit inclined to kind of let him go a little bit. I kind of feel the same way about him that I feel about Tua, in a sense that this is the year. You've got all these weapons now. You've got a decent coaching staff with McDaniels. Well, it still remains to see if McDaniels is successful as a head coach. But I'm a little bit inclined to give him a little bit of rope just because of those reasons. But I definitely understand why you're saying what you're saying, because I kind of feel the same way about Tua. Just like I said, with Tua is no excuses. Now, he got hurt again, just past week, which could have been on the organization. That's a whole mess over there in Miami as far as what they're saying in terms of him maybe not being cleared for that game. But I'm a little bit inclined to give Carr just a little bit of rope. I may even give him another year because of the coaching changes, because of he just getting his weapons. But I'm leaning your direction in the sense that he doesn't have that much time with Derek Carr. Now, how do you feel about Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins, man. Kirk Cousins, he's been the same since Washington.
Yes.
I just haven't felt like he hasn't been better. He hasn't been worse. Just been consistently inconsistent.
That's right.
And that bothers me because he'll have 5 games where he looks like he's the top 5 quarterback. And then he'll have the next 5 games where he looks like he's Darnold or Baker Mayfield or something. Exactly. You're like, yo, what's going on? And for him to have been the highest paid quarterback up until like maybe the last 2 seasons, it's kind of mind-boggling, because you give top money to people that you think are generational talents, people that's going to change your organization, who's going to be the face of your organization. Right. And ever since he's been with the Vikings, I haven't seen them make that jump to be a consistent contender. I even see Jimmy Garoppolo being a better quarterback than him, more consistent.
Yes.
Doing winning things, not throwing the game away for his team. But I feel like Cousins does that all the time. Because a big game, he turns the ball over, or he just doesn't make the offense move. And that's one of my biggest issues with him. He's number 18, number 20 in passer rating, number 10 in TD. So he's consistent. He's consistently in the middle of the pack.
That's right.
But I just think that at some point in time, how long are you gonna stay with being mediocre? You either got to choose to tank to get better, which I don't advocate for tanking. I'm a competitor, but you either tank to get better and get that number 1 quarterback, or you put so much talent around him that all he has to do is hand that ball off and dump the ball every now and then and let his playmakers make plays. Because right now, I think this is last year as the Vikings quarterback if he doesn't take them to the playoffs and deep into the playoffs.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. Just to add on what you're saying, to me, he's good at taking what you give him on the field, but he doesn't give you much more. He, to me, is a backup quarterback. And the reason why I say that, to me, backups, to me, I think about a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, where if your starting quarterback goes out for 6 games, I think your backup is good enough to give you 500. Now, anything above that is great. I think a backup is capable of keeping you afloat. However, he's a middle of a pack guy, like you said. He's an average guy. He's consistent at being mediocre, like you said. And he's never going to give you anything outside of the box. He's never going to give you, to me, a surprising, like you said about Jimmy G, performance. I think he gives you mediocre. I think he gives you average, where he'll give you a good play every now and then. But to me, he fits the mold of a backup. I've always said that. And I've always been critical about the Texans with that, in terms of why we haven't won in years, is because we continuously put, other than Deshaun Watson, we continuously bring in backups, guys that the league says are backups. And I give an example with the Texans. To me, Matt Schaub. When Matt Schaub came here, the Atlanta Falcons said he was a backup. I think he backed up Vic. He might have backed up Ryan for a little while. But the Texans, because of they were so wrapped up, and some of these NFL teams are like this when they try to follow the Belichick model. The Texans were trying to say that in our system, we believe that Matt Schaub is a starting quarterback, meaning that based on what they put in place for him to run a system, for him to manage a system, he can be a good quarterback. Now, he did have a Pro Bowl season here, but we put so many things around him, and then we found out how special Arian Foster was. That kind of came out of nowhere. But the thing about backward quarterbacks, and we've had a lot, Matt Schaub, in a sense, to me, he's a backup quarterback because once the defenses, the NFL defenses started to get film on him, and I always say this about quarterbacks in the NFL, if you have a quarterback that's not a high draft pick, or if you have an NFL quarterback who was on the bench, you get that first year because people don't have that much film on them. And everybody thinks because they have a breakout year, they have a where did this guy come from type of year that, oh, this guy is great. I give you an example. To me, Tony Romo kind of fit that role with Dallas. When Tony Romo first came in, he did some wonderful things and people thought, oh, this guy is great. But in the NFL, just like the NBA and even Major League Baseball, okay, you get a year because nobody knows who you are. They don't have that much film on you. But once they get film on you, what do you do next? And so I felt that about Schaub. He had one good year. He went to the Pro Bowl. I never bought him because I always felt like in Atlanta, to me, it's not a mystery. You know this, Gerard. We talk about this all the time. It rarely works in terms of if you've been to places and pretty much everybody in the NBA, maybe other than teams like Golden State, special teams in the NFL, the Patriots, but pretty much when those teams say that this guy is a backup or this guy is this, pretty much the league, whether it be one team, most of the teams are going to agree upon that. I felt that way about Matt Schaub. The Atlanta Falcons has him as a backup. The Texans brought him here and got caught up in the system and saying in our system, he can be a starting quarterback. They did the same thing with Ryan Mallett. They did the same thing with Brian Hoyer. You know, people call us the Patriots South. Take all of these backup quarterbacks and we say in our system, they can be starters because they run our system to a great. Well, again, I think that's what Kirk Cousins is. I think he's a backup quarterback. I don't see him when a team has film on him and he's a starter, that he's a difference maker. And another thing is, if everything is even as far as offensive play, defensive play, if everything is even as far as, you know, not having many turnovers, Kirk Cousins, much like a lot of these guys on this list, Baker Mayfield, they're not going to give you a play to put the team over the top. And so to me, what makes you a starting quarterback is when everything else is even, offense is even, the defense is even, the quarterback, the starting quarterback finds a way to win the game for you. And Kirk Cousins doesn't do that, much like a lot of these guys on this list. They're not going to win you a game. Now, they may keep you from losing a game, but they're not going to be able to, in particular, Cousins is the definition of this. He's not going to never make a play where he's going to put you over the top. So he's an average quarterback. Let's grab one more and then we'll move on to our last topic and then we'll wrap it up. Matt Ryan. How do you feel about Matt Ryan? Tell me what you think about him. Does he fit on this list?
I like Matt Ryan, man. I really do. And I think Matt Ryan's issue is he's just staying beyond his time. I think that I don't want to say he should retire, but I think at this point in his career, he's coming off more like a backup quarterback on a good team. You know, like if someone like a Dak Prescott went down, he's someone that could possibly take you to the rest of the season and possibly still
role. Right.
Exactly. He just doesn't look the same to me. However, his numbers don't look bad. his numbers are not horrible when it comes to producing. He's been sacked a lot. I think he's been sacked 15 times or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, already. So it says a lot about your offensive line. So I'm kind of contributing to it, saying maybe it's the offensive line that's making him look bad because his numbers are not horrible. But I know the last couple of years in Atlanta, they weren't that impressive. Right. But then they say Julio Jones was hurt, and then what's his name got hurt or suspended towards the end. The former Alabama receiver for gambling. So I can't really call it. I just think that might be his last opportunity because I think the Colts might end up firing their coach if they don't win the season because they brought him Nick Foles, they brought him Carson Wentz, and now they give him Matt Ryan, and they also brought him the guy from the Chargers, Rivers, who retired, and all four of them actually are not really producing to the way that they need to produce. So I could see them moving on for him.
Yeah, I mean I agree. I think the Colts so far haven't given him much. I look at those last couple of years in Atlanta, and it just didn't look like he had much left, for me. I think it's unfortunate. I think Indianapolis, I agree with your statement in terms of they may be looking for a coaching change. I mean, the way that they finished last year where they had their own
defense, the best running backs
at Jacksonville. All they had to do was beat Jacksonville, which was the worst team in the NFL. Them and the Texans, they went to Jacksonville. If they'd have beat Jacksonville, they would have been into the playoffs. And I mean, everybody played bad. Carson Wentz, not just Carson Wentz, but the whole team played bad.
Yeah.
And so I think as an organization, they're headed in the wrong direction. Matt Ryan may be able to be a backup somewhere, but he looks like he's getting closer to retirement for me. I think his best years was in that Super Bowl run, of course. I just think time has passed him. I give him a little bit of pass with the Colts, but I'm not sure if he's anywhere else he would look any better as a starting quarterback. He's never been that much mobile. I just think the sun is setting on him. I don't think another situation, even though the Colts is not giving him a good situation, I don't think any other situation he would do better. Maybe in a situation where everything is perfect, perfect running back, perfect offensive line, a defense that's maybe kind of like a Brady situation in Tampa Bay when he got over there, maybe something like that. But I don't know. If I had to bet, I would say he's on the downside of his career. I think he's definitely out. And I think the Colts are definitely out, So I'm with you.
I agree with you. And I agree with you. So
yeah. All right, the last topic, and then we'll wrap up after this. We gotta say something about this. We haven't had much about Major League Baseball on this podcast, but it is coming because of the playoffs. Within the last couple of days, New York Yankees star Aaron Judge he launched a 62 home run season. He set the AL single season record for home runs. Where does he rank among the greats to you? And is he the true home run king versus the guys in the steroid era? And when we're talking about the steroid era, we're talking about, of course, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. Where do you rank Judge? And do you rank him ahead of those guys, being that they have an asterisk next to their names because of the steroids?
That's one of the toughest questions that anyone's ever asked. If you know me since college, I'm probably the biggest Barry Bonds fan in the world. I watched baseball since I was a kid with my grandfather, man, and Barry Bonds was always one of my favorites. Him and Ken Griffey Jr. And it's hard to say, but I think that you have to say that Judge is probably the best home run hitter because you got to throw in the steroids era and say that there was an advantage. However, I don't ever want that to take away from Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire or any other baseball player that hit home with Sammy Sosa because they were great without it.
Right.
Maybe they could have done it without it if they just, hit the weight room a little bit more or maybe just had a lucky season because they were already great hitters. But the fact that, you know, the steroids is in there, there's always going to be that asterisk. I will always respect Barry Bonds' season because I also felt that that era of steroids was what made baseball popular again.
That's right.
Because baseball was dying out. No one was really following it. And if it wasn't for Mark Aguirre, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, it probably would have died out by now. But now you have Aaron Judge, who is the version of them, but without steroids. And he plays for the biggest market and the biggest baseball team ever in history. I think it just it exaggerates it even more. And when you think about it, I was listening to ESPN today. Every home run mark was done by a Yankee. Babe Ruth.
That's right.
Aaron Judge. So Mays, whoever it was, like they just said every single home run season was done by a Yankee. That's a remarkable, you know, feat.
Right.
So,
just to add to that, I think you covered on some great points. I cannot disagree with you at all. I think I have to give him his just due. That's not easy to do. I mean, I have a few criticisms about him, but I think he's a phenomenal baseball player. I think this is a milestone what he's done. Because the Yankees.
What would be your criticisms of him?
Huh?
What would be your criticism of him?
I think with him, and this is kind of unfair, but this is me. I think with him, he strikes out a lot. And that may be the reason why he hits so many home runs. I think he strikes out a little bit too much. One thing about Bonds, I think Bonds didn't strike out. And of course, Bonds, before the steroids allegations, was already a great baseball player. He was a good hitter in terms of getting on base and his on base percentage. I mean, Barry Bonds was a great all-around baseball player. People don't remember before he put on all the weight and the muscle, he stole bases. He could run the outfield very well, but as far as hitting, he was still a good hitter. Now, when he picked up the weight, he picked up the muscle, of course, he became more of a power hitter. I think Judge strikes out too much, but I think that's a part of him. When you're swinging the bat as hard and with as much velocity as he does, of course, you're probably going to have a lot of strikeouts. I just feel like, you know, sometimes I see him, he may strike out 3 or 4 games in a row and then turn around and hit 3 or 4 home runs. You know, I definitely think because he plays with the Yankees, the media coverage is going to be extra. But with that saying, I think he's definitely legit. I'm not ready to put him over those guys in the steroid era yet. I think he still has enough time to keep going. And I want to see what he continues to do in terms of what he's got left in these seasons. Now, of course, I don't think he'll set the record again. He could, but if he's still consistent with hitting a lot of home runs within these next couple of seasons, then he moves up on my list. I think with Barry Bonds, and in particular, I'm talking about Barry Bonds, of course, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. What I say to people about steroids is this, and you brought up a good point. Baseball benefited off of it. Baseball made money off of it. And we all know in baseball, one of the most precious things that they hang on to is the records. So I think you have to make those guys legit. To me, steroids do not help you hit the ball. Now, it definitely gives you more power when you do make the connection with the ball. I think you have to have excellent eye and hand coordination to be able to hit a baseball. I can lift all the weights in the world and take all the steroids in the world. If I cannot hit a baseball, it doesn't matter. So I definitely, you know, understand why people are putting asterisks by these guys' names, those guys in particular who were in the steroid era. But let's not forget, you still have to hit the baseball. Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, maybe not Sosa so much, but those two guys in particular have had multiple home run seasons where they've, you know, not had, you know, records of home runs, and they've always been high on the home run, you know, the home run hits every year. And they bat well, both of those two guys in particular. So, I mean, our Judge is definitely on that list. He's definitely legit, but I want to see what he does. I want to see what happens, what he's got left. But he's
And
definitely on that list. I mean, he's reached a milestone that a lot of players don't reach. Go ahead.
in a stat correction, I said 3 Yankees held the record without steroids, and it was Roger Maris, not Willie Mays. I think I said Willie Mays on accident.
Okay.
So it's Aaron Judge, Roger Maris, and Babe Ruth who hit 59, 60.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. No, I can't take credit from him, man. He's definitely on the list. He submitted himself. I mean, he cemented himself so far presently, but I want to see what he does if he can. Because to me, Barry Bonds has always been up there as far as league leaders in home run hits. Mark McGwire as well. So I just
could I get it?
Go ahead.
I know we on this home run topic, but we know the playoffs starting this week, and we ain't gonna be starting until next week. But I want your prediction on who's winning the MLB championship this year.
Oh man, in the American League, and you're gonna say I'm biased to this, but in the American League, I got the Astros, and the reason why I have the Astros is because I think they're the most complete team, and what I mean by that, I mean pitching and hitting. All year long, the bullpen and the starting pitchers have been great. I think the hitting has always been pretty good with Altuve. I can't think of the guy's name, the big young bull that we got, Altuve and the big kid. He's young. He's not a Dominican
with
kid.
The Y, Yanendez. I know you're talking about.
Yordan Alvarez, yeah. So I think that, and then those two guys in particular, him and Altuve, they get a lot of the press, but Bregman and a lot of those guys, they have been so consistent on how they hit the ball. I think they're the most complete team in American League. And I think they're the only team. I think the Yankees give everybody problems, but I think the Astros match up well with the Yankees, and I think the Astros is the only team I could see beating the Yankees on a consistent basis, meaning more than one game in the playoffs. The Yankees are coming in they're looking real good. I like the rest of the American League, but I just think it's between the Yankees and the Astros, and I think the Astros are the most complete team, pitching, hitting, coaching. In the National League, I'm torn between the Braves and the Dodgers. It's hard for me to pick between those two because I think it can go either way. I'd lean a little bit more to the Braves simply because I think they're up and coming with talent, and they won it last year. I also think that the Dodgers are always in it. Dodgers are one of the more complete teams. They have been a complete team. So right now I got the Astros in the American League, and I don't really know between the Braves and the Dodgers. And there could be a dark horse out there, but I just think between those three teams, that's it. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Astros because they beat up on my Mets, and they beat up on everybody. To be honest with you, like you said, when it comes to being a complete team, I haven't seen a better baseball team. Every single time I turn them on, Altuve is doing his thing, Alvarez is doing his thing. There's another player that I like. His name doesn't come to me right now, but y'all just have a squad that is just ready for the postseason. And I think they'll play the Yankees in the ALCS championship series. And then I think the NL, we all know the Dodgers is probably the most talented team in all of baseball, period. But I think the Braves are hot right now. The Braves are hot right now.
And that's so key in baseball and football is the teams that go into the playoffs hot, or the teams that's going into the playoffs where everything is clicking.
Exactly. And I would have said the Mets had we had Marte, because I felt like where we start to break down is when we lost Sterling Marte to injury. And that's when we start to lose our lead, start to lose more games, and we end up losing the division by a game, I think it was. But it is what it is. So I got Atlanta.
Down the spiral. The Mets.
Yeah. I got Atlanta, and I'm gonna throw a wrench in there. Actually, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say Atlanta and the Yankees, man.
Okay.
Atlanta and the Yankees, but I would not. I'll sit here and say to you, like, I could totally understand if Houston wins the chip this year because they're that good. But I'm gonna go with the Yankees. I'm gonna go with the Yankees, and Atlanta with the Yankees taking the World Series.
Okay. Well, those are good picks. Those are good picks, man. And we're gonna have to report on this next week. We definitely gotta get in tune with the MLB playoffs. We will do that. We will follow up with that and see if our predictions come. But it's been real, man. All the way from Mo City to New York. We'll catch up next week and do it again. We thank you, Cole. We want to thank JT, the Golden Child, for his little time on the podcast tonight. Stream this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow Mo Serious Entertainment on Instagram or Facebook. Subscribe to Mo Serious Entertainment. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cole, once again. Appreciate you,
my friend.
Appreciate you,
All
brother.
good.
Keep coming with that heat, and we'll catch up next week. Peace.